Today's episode of Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is dedicated to keeping you and your kids alive. And it's simple things like what safety items kids should bring with them when they play in the woods.
Well, the first thing, remember I talked about how we want to be careful that we don't get wet out there?
Yeah.
Okay, the first thing I have, and you might not think of this, but is a garbage bag.
Garbage bag?
Why would I have a garbage bag, right?
What the?
Yeah.
Today's show was captured at the Eastern Maine Sportsman Show a few weeks back. There's always so much to see and do there. One of the classroom presentations was put on by Maine Association for Search and Rescue. Jim Bridge was there to tell a whole bunch of kids how to deal with getting lost in the woods. Lots of great tips on lost-proofing your kids, and frankly, adults should know this stuff too. But this is whitewater canoe season, and we'll start the show today with some really, really good tips about canoe safety. Now, I've been canoeing since I was a toddler, but every time I listen to Dan Pelletier talk, I learn something new. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by a.m.and Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS. Now then, we're at the Sportsman Show, we're in the pool area, and paddle expert Dan Pelletier is going to help us stay alive.
There you go. Hey. See, a lot of this stuff is fun to do. On a warm summer day, you can go out and play with this. And when you do it and you practice it, then when you need it, you got it. But if you go out and you haven't practiced it, yeah, it gives you something to try, but I don't know if you're going to do it, you know. Life jackets, back to life jackets. The higher the flotation, the more you float, the higher you float. Regular calm lake, regular life jacket is fine. Doing bigger whitewater, I recommend a high float life jacket. Comfortable life jacket. Try it on, make sure it's comfortable for you. Everybody's different shapes and sizes. The more you paddle, the more personal preference you have. You want to have something comfortable because you want to wear it. And you want to wear it, and you want to wear it. If it's uncomfortable, if it's chafing you, you ain't going to want to wear it. Outfitting life jackets. Whistles. Important. 3 whistles, usually emergency signal. 1 is just to get your attention. I see a lot of people put whistles, all life jackets, their primary securing system is the zipper, right? How do you release the zipper? The tab, right? They take the whistle, they put it on the tab. What if that whistle catches something? Off comes your life jacket. No, I recommend don't put your whistle on your tab.
Now that bears repeating. A lot of people know enough to carry a whistle when paddling. You can get hoarse from yelling for help, but a whistle never does. Many people attach the whistle where they can get to it quickly, but some people put it right on the zipper tab of the life jacket, and if that catches on something, it can unzip your life jacket. Same thing with other things you attach to a life jacket. Nothing with a loop should ever be fastened firmly to you, because if something catches on it, you could be in big trouble. Carabiners, for instance.
Carabiners. You get in the paddling world, everybody has carabiners. Everybody likes carabiners. You see people, they clip them all over the life jacket. I.e., what if that gets caught on something? In the moving world of water, you can't say, oh, I'm caught. You know you're caught, but you don't know on what. So don't clip your biner on something that's solid, unless it's a locking type where you can lock it from opening. Yeah, I got one here, right? It's on Velcro. It gets caught, boom, it's gone. You want your life jacket's going to be snug. Otherwise, it rides up on you. Children, their little bodies, there's just no taper to them. They're just like this. So you want to have a life jacket with little children with leg loops on it, so they don't slip out of the life jacket. Let's talk about rope. Rope's one of the more useful things, but also dangerous. A knife. It's always good to have a knife. I got 1 knife. 2, 3, and that's common.
Okay, now that's funny. Canoes have ropes. If you're in whitewater, tangled and in trouble, you may need a knife in a hurry. To demonstrate the value of having a knife in the water, Dan Pelletier pulls one off his life vest, which is attached with Velcro, another from under his vest, and a third from his side pocket in his pants.
Well, no, if I'm working a situation, I drop the knife, what am I? Then I don't have a knife, so different ones. For guiding, Leatherman. I can do repairing of canoes and bolts, and it's also got blades on it, too. Stuff I carry with me. I like this knife a lot. It's got a saw on it. Something happens, I could cut twigs and stuff. I could cut a thwart on a boat. I could cut a boat with it. Fire starter. This is a magnesium strip with a spark thing on it, right? You shave magnesium, you start a fire. You don't have to worry about getting wet. Well, there's other systems, but if you wind up losing your boat or something, you got something you can start a fire with. I also like to carry on my boat, even on day paddles, space blanket. It's really good for heating. You get a fire going, you put that behind you, reflects the heat back to you, warms you right up. Minor first aid kit. In June, early summer, mosquito head net. If you get stuck on the side of the river, say you're paddling, or somebody else gets stuck, you lose your boat, or you get hurt, you put a bug net on somebody, compared to getting chewed on, if you're stuck there, yeah. You know, what does that weigh? Not much. So those are, and snacks and water. You can get water purifying tablets. If you're out there a long time, you just pop one of them in your water bottle. I'll show you how I outfit a recreational boat. Anal lines. They're handy. You can tie the boat off on a tree. Boat recovery, you can grab it. If this boat was going down line, the other boat can grab it, tie it off the bed, and pull it to shore. Gives you something. Okay, you notice I drilled holes in it. I put rope in a couple inches. If you're going to put force on it, you can on this. It'll take quite a bit to pull that. You got to be back a little bit. If you put it right near the tip, you're going to pull the tip off. If you just tie off to the deck plate, you're going to pull the deck plate off. It ain't very strong. Here's loose rope again, right? Some different things you can do. You can take a piece of bungee, put it on there, slip it underneath bungee. I don't have that.
Okay, that's another good tip. First, you want your painter lines in the front and rear to be as strong as possible. Dan Pelletier actually drills holes in the hull near the gunnels to firmly secure the ropes. And there are no loops in his painters, so they're less likely to catch on something if you capsize. Me? I always have loops in my ropes where I want to tie down to the roof. It never occurred to me that those loops could catch on something in the water. Also, I just throw my rope in the boat and it lies there in the floor where it can tangle with me and my gear in an emergency situation. Dan secures them with a bungee or something so that they're quick to release but out of harm's way.
Bailers. They got water in the boat, right? So they want to bail. Common thing you see people do. They tie the bailer on it because they don't want to lose the bailer. How much economic value do you think is that bailer? It's cheap, right? Now, moving water things swirl around. Where are you? You're stuck tied to the boat. The boat gets pinned. Don't use rope, loose rope. A lot of times I carry a bailer loose and I tie a separate one on as a backup. Or take a short clip, you got your bailer, bail the water out, flip it back on. You're not going to lose it that way. Okay?
And there we go. Another mistake I make. I always have the bailer tied to a thwart where it can get tangled up with anything. Keep one loose, keep one secure to the gear. We're at a paddle safety demonstration being conducted by paddle expert Dan Pelletier at the Eastern Maine Sportsman Show a few weeks back. When we get back to the pool in a moment, exactly how should you be sitting in that canoe when the water is starting to get foamy? This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Today's entire show is focused on keeping you alive. These events happened at the Eastern Maine Sportsman Show a few weeks back. In a few minutes, we'll learn how to lost-proof your kids. But right now, we're in the pool with Dan Pelletier, who is teaching us paddle safety. We've gone over the gear in the last segment. Now, how about positioning in the canoe?
Proper position, you see these guys are kneeling down, right? They're kneeling down the boat. What's that do? That gets the center of gravity down low, so they're more stable. One thing what flips people a lot is, like, you see I had my dog in the boat? It was like, oh, my dog flipped me. No, the dog didn't flip you. The dog put its feet on the gunnel, you leaned the same way, and you took the boat over. It's really a dog, unless it's a huge dog in a really tippy boat, would flip you. The boat starts leaning, he's sitting on the seat. What happens is, he slips this way, and then he's sitting on the gunnel, and where's he going? Over. You don't like that, do you? And now, what if you can get on your knees, and without even bracing, you see how that They keep them, they're pivoting at the hips, keeps them really stable. Oh yeah, a lot of people are like, geez, I don't want to be on my knees all day, it's sore, right? I see people put knee pads on, construction knee pads. They wear them for a couple hours and they're cutting into them like, Army surplus, foam pad, like $5, you can make a bunch of them. Put them in there. If you're worried about losing it, duct tape it to the bottom. Duct tape's a great thing to have on river. It comes in handy. A lot of times, a little trick I do for duct tape, so I have it with my boat all the time. Beginning of the season, I take duct tape. I don't have it on this boat. I just wrap it around and around and around. And I got a length of duct tape, you can just take it right off. It's right there with your boat all the time. Getting in and out of the boat.
Wait. I got this one. This is the mistake many people make. You go nose first on the shore, the front guy gets out and pulls the boat halfway up in the bank so the other guy can get out dry. But now the middle of the boat is hanging in the air, and the whole boat is pivoting on just the front and back. This is the tippiest a canoe will ever get, and it's really easy to dump that poor guy in the back into the water. Now, Dan Pelletier is a professional guide. He lives in Elton and operates Maine Guiding, a canoe tour company. Dan sees a lot of flatlanders getting this wrong, so pay attention, especially to the part about letting the stern guy get out first.
People come in, you can get out. The bow guy gets out. Maybe I will have you tip. This is common, right? He says, oh, okay, well, I'll pull it up the bank for the next guy. Well, what's it do? It takes the width of the boat out of the water, so it's really tippy. So you don't do that to the guy. And ideally, you see how he's sitting further back in the boat and it's still tippy? Is if you come up to the side, you have the stern guy get out first and then the bow guy. So you put the bow person in first because they're more sensitive to the weight and then the back. Depending on the weight of the person, you can do that. So. That's another point. I see people do that all the time. Actually, I saw my friend's son do that to him. Then he's laughing at his dad. Ha ha, you fell in the water. But he did it to his father, but he didn't even realize it. So, helmets. These guys in the outdoor program, they wear helmets all the time, I think. Recreational boats, no. If you strap yourself in, definitely. Kayak, definitely. Don't go whitewater. Don't go without a helmet. Camping trips. I don't have gear here. It's called yard sailing. You got all your gear in the canoe, right? A mishap happens, you fall. What's going to happen? Your stuff's floating all over the place. Bad. It's called yard sail. And it's hard to get the stuff back because it's floating everywhere and you're trying to get yourself straightened out. There's two things to do. Two ways I secure gear in. If I'm on a solo trip, whitewater, I'll take dry bags, I'll secure them in the boat like flotation, like these guys. And that's the thing with flotation, it's going to be secured in the boat. Otherwise, it's just a marker where the boat is. Okay? But you can secure it in, and if you fill up with water, that's adding flotation to your boat. With guiding clients, it's too much work to do that. So what do? I take one piece of rope, or maybe a couple, and I tie it off like on the center thwart. Then I tie off each piece individually along that chain of rope. So you got it tied to the canoe, then you got like your dry bag tied separately, then another dry bag, then another dry bag, then maybe your personal bag, or the cooler or something like that. So what happens? The boat gets pinned on a rock in the water. Everything's tied on a line, strung out, right? Okay, well I can go to the end piece, cut that one off, because usually I use cheap rope, cut that off, throw it in my canoe, cut the next piece off, boom. And some people just tie it all with one piece, just go through all the handles. But once you cut it, what do you got? Yard sail. You got one piece in your hand, everything else is going down. So if you're doing whitewater or moving water, and you got all your gear in, that keeps it contained. Paddling on lakes, big thing this year. Almost every year somebody drowns on a lake. Cold water. You go away from shore, the water is cold, particularly if they ain't wearing a life jacket. The further you go out from shore, if the wind is coming from the shore, the worse it's going to be and it's more difficult to get back. You fall in, it's a long way to go. Unless somebody sees you out there, you're in deep trouble. You could swim a distance. It's a judgment call. If you go in the water, do you leave the boat or not? It's a judgment call. How far out are you? Is there anybody around? If there's nobody around, and you're 100 yards off water, you got your life jacket on, most likely you can swim to shore. If it's cold, you're gonna have to stay with it, you know.
Here's another common problem. Maine has a lot of rivers. This time of year in particular, there's a lot of good whitewater, even on smaller rivers that aren't used very much. There are some good canoe guidebooks for the state, but conditions on a riverbank can change over time. And finding a portage trail can be tricky, especially early in the season when it hasn't been used very much, or at all.
That's very true. Portage trails are difficult to see sometimes, and go with caution. When you're paddling, one of the big safety things, don't do anything more than you're comfortable with, and that you know. Well, another thing is, river at different water levels is a different river. Sometimes if the water's higher, it's easier, it's less complicated. Flood stage, my opinion, stay off the river. You get whitewater boats, oh, the water's really big. Yeah, there's a lot of trash in the river, it's going through trees. You don't know what the disturbances are. My personal opinion, I like big whitewater. Flood stage, no, I stay off it. That's simple. But in general, the books and the maps, they'll say class 1, class 2, class 3. It's a grain of salt. It gives you something to go by, but still scout it out if you're not sure. The more you do with canoeing, the more experience you get, the more you can do safely. You can go down class 3 whitewater and you can keep eddying out and you can scout it as you're running it. But you got to be able to stop. But the beauty of the sport is you can go and paddle in a frog pond with lily pads with kids and really enjoy yourself. You don't have to be doing whitewater. If you're an enthusiast where you're like, oh, I want something personally challenging for myself, yeah, you can build yourself up to it. It's a lot safer to go with a group and people are knowledgeable because they'll share that knowledge. And then when you do have a mishap, you got people to help you out. I started out by myself. I didn't have any friends that wanted to canoe, but I went, but I was conservative with what I paddled and I stayed safe. And then when I started going with the club, I'm like, then I had a safety net. Then I started exploring and playing with bigger water, where if I fell in the water, I had people to help me in that. And if you stay with the basic rules, if you're in the water, is keep your feet up and have your life jacket on, you're pretty safe. Like I said, it's a lot safer to drive to the river. Stay away from dams. When you get paddling the bigger water, learn how to read the water. There are such things as holes and hydraulics in bigger water that can keep you and recirculate you. In Maine, there's not that much. There's such things as undercuts. In Maine, we don't have that much for undercuts.
We're at the Eastern Maine Sportsman Show, which took place a few weeks ago. Today's show uses some of those programs to keep you alive this summer. Dan Pelletier is talking paddle safety in the pool area at the moment. And yes, stay away from dams. Also, watch out for trees in the river. You probably know that. But we'll get a good explanation and some tips when Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine returns. And coming up later in the show, we'll see what we can do about lost-proofing your kids, including how to help a rescue dog find you.
Well, wouldn't it be smart if you kept walking in circles to make a place for your scent?
No, it wouldn't. This is Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8. This is a show about staying alive. Coming up, and talk directly to kids about how to avoid getting lost and what to do if you do. But first, we're in the pool area getting some tips on paddle safety from Dan Pelletier, one of the state's foremost experts on canoeing safety. Tips like knowing how a tree in the river can kill you. Strainers and sweepers.
We do have strainers, trees in the river. Those, stay away from trees in the river. At all costs, stay away from the tree in the river. If you wind up not being able to get away from the tree, and you're going to be going into the tree, and there's no other choice, swim towards the tree as fast as you can, try to climb up on it before the current pulls you under. Because if you're going faster than the current, you got a second or two where you can get up before the current pulls you under. You guys understand that? Because you're moving along with the current, and if you just stay in it with the current and you get to the tree, boom, you're going to get pulled under or sucked up to it. But if the current's going at that rate of speed and you're going faster, you get to, and you can climb over it. But don't try that. I mean, that's, if you have to, I mean, that's emergency last. But if you know the river, and that's another thing with trees. It might be fine one day, and the next day a tree could come down overnight. That actually happened on the Dead River. I was doing safety on the Dead. A tree came down overnight in one of the big rapids, right in the main channel. Well, it directed everybody into the really big water. The canoeists are coming down. It's a 3-day race. They just paddled the day before. I'm telling them to run it on River Right. Right? River Right is, if you're facing downriver, it's on the right side. It's in orientation facing down. River Left is on that side. They didn't want to believe me. They're like, I just paddled it yesterday. It's fine. They all thanked me later on because when they went by, because they would have pushed them out in the big water, they all would have swamped. You notice that with racing canoes, they're all sitting. You know, they're not kneeling, they're sitting in the seats. But if you look at the seats, they sit really low in the boat. And they're sandwiched in, so they're not going to slide through the gunnels. Strainers. You guys all have spaghetti, the spaghetti strainers. You know, it lets the water through, but it holds the object. Well, that's what a strainer does with people in boats and stuff. It lets the water through, but it holds you on the upstream side. Maybe above water, maybe below, okay? A sweeper is essentially a tree over the water, and the branches are sweeping underneath it. Those usually ain't so bad, depending if the branches go all the way to the bottom. A lot of times they'll just push stuff underneath and you pop up on the other side. Big water, if you're really big water, I do raft guiding too. People laugh at me when I tell them this. The main thing if you're in really big water, the big waves, is to hold your breath with your head's underneath and breathe when it's above. Because the waves are really big, and it isn't like an ocean where you bob up and down, you go through the waves. So in the trough, you can catch your air, but what happens with people, they're going through the wave, right? And they take in water, and then they come out into the trough. Then they go to breathe in, but they're breathing in when they're going into the wave, so they take in more water, and then they start coughing again, then they breathe it in. And so if you just relax, in really big water, like the Kennebec River, if you ever done the Kennebec, any of you guys ever do the Kennebec, the rafting? It's really big waves, but the main channel is really deep. You're not going to hit bottom. There's no rocks. And swimmer position. If you're in the water in rapids, swim position is you put your feet downstream and you point them. So if you bump a rock, this is where it's shallow. Your feet you're not trying to stand, right? You're going to bump with your feet or your butt. But you don't want to be like this where your butt's really taking it, okay? So stay like that. And if the water is calm, like a big eddy or it's just moving water, you can roll over and do an aggressive swim to shore or to the side. It isn't that you always have to be in swim position, because sometimes it's like, oh, I can get out here, but if I stay in swim position, I'm going to be 12 miles downriver. So, it's judgment calls. But you can go over and crawl. But the main thing is don't put your feet down. Don't ever do that. A life jacket. Do things that you're comfortable with. Be with friends. Join a club. If you want to race, back row is really good. It's got Paddle and Chowder Society is a really nice group. There's instructional courses. I do some, but it's mostly within my guided trips. Paddle signals. On river, there's paddle signals. That means stop. It's horizontal. This means all clear. This means like go that way. So I might go like this and like that. That tells people to go that way. General rule on river is never point to a danger or a hazard. You point to where people want to go. Because on river, verbal communication is kind of out because people can't hear. It's pretty noisy, especially in a rapid situation. So if you're coming down the river, if I point that way, that's where I want you to go. You don't point to a hazard. Okay? So you point to where people want to go. That's just general river terminology. Any questions? You guys going to stay for the kayaking portion? It's going to be more wet and wild, so. Hope you guys learned something.
That's Dan Pelletier teaching a program on paddle safety at the Eastern Maine Sportsman Show a few weeks back. It's an important topic this time of year because this is whitewater season. It's also cold water season. In fact, the 50th Kanduska Extreme Canoe Race is next weekend. You can never get enough safety tips. And that's what today's show is about, staying alive outdoors. Jim Bridge was in the classroom at the Eastern Maine Sportsman Show talking to a bunch of youngsters about how to keep from getting lost and what to do if you do get lost. Jim is with the Maine Association of Search and Rescue. Let's get some of that on the air.
Come on in, grab a seat.
Thank you.
What we're going to talk about today is a little bit about how to not get lost, but then if you do get lost, what to do to make it easier for us to find you. We're going to go through and talk about some of those things. Any of you kids been lost before? Anybody been lost at Walmart or at Hannaford's or something? Yeah, you get lost a lot. You're going to be our friend because we'll come find you. Some people get lost out in the woods, and some people get lost like at Walmart. Is there a difference between lost in the woods and lost in Walmart?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. What's the difference?
That there's millions of people that go into Walmart each day and they can find you easily and bring you and try to find your home, other than the woods that you have to wait and try and help to try getting help instead of you can just wait there and they will just help you.
And if you're lost at Walmart, you can go up to one of those people that has the blue vest on, that works there. And
Cashiers.
if you're embarrassed to tell them that you're lost, you can tell them that your mom's lost. And you need help finding mom. That's what you can do at Walmart, and if it's raining and you're in Walmart, you don't care, do you? Because it's warm and it's dry and they got lights on and everything. But if you're out in the woods, it's a little bit different, okay? And not bad, just different, okay? So if you're out in the woods and it's raining, you've got to figure out what to do about that, don't you? And we're going to talk about how to stay dry out in the woods a little bit later. The other thing is, if you're out in the woods, there's nobody to ask for help, huh? So you got to use the most important survival tool that you can take out in the woods. What do you think that is?
A walkie-talkie?
No, that might be important, but that's not it.
Gun?
A gun, that might be important, but that's not it.
Your brain.
Your brain, yes, you've been through this course. I remember you when you were a little kid. Yep. Your brain is the most important survival tool that you can take out of the woods. What we want you to do is when you get lost out in the woods is use your brain. One of the things in the video that little girl does is she goes camping with her family and they go on a hike. And she goes running on ahead of the family and then sees something off in the woods and she goes off into the woods. And that's a problem, huh? Because she didn't tell mom and dad where she went and she didn't stay on the trail. Telling people where you go is really, really important. Like, for example, if you were at home and you went out in the backwoods and you went out in the backyard and you came over here and you were going to go play up on the hill in your fort that you built, and you got up there and you were playing for a little while and it got boring. I don't want to do this. I want to go down to the pond and catch frogs. So you told mom you were going to be there. Now you came over here, but you didn't tell mom. And then if you got lost and she called us to come find you, where would we go look? Where would we look? We'd look up in the fort, wouldn't we?
Well, that's certainly all very true. I got lost when I was 7 years old, and they still haven't found me. But that's the first point about lost-proofing your kids or grandkids. Kids need to say where they're going and make sure they go there and nowhere else. The voice you hear belongs to Jim Bridge from the Maine Association of Search and Rescue. This presentation was part of the Eastern Maine Sportsman Show a few weeks ago. When we return, it's fun for kids to go into the woods, but there's a few things they should bring with them. Later in the show, how can kids make it easier for searchers and rescue dogs to find them? This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Today's show is about keeping you and your kids alive. This portion of the show was recorded at the Eastern Maine Sportsman Show a few weeks ago. Jim Bridge is with the Maine Association of Search and Rescue, and we're teaching kids about how not to get lost, what to do if they get lost, and in this case, what to bring with them in case they do get lost. For instance, a fanny pack with good stuff in it. Even better if the fanny pack is Hunter Orange.
So one of the things that we tell people that they should do is to have a fanny pack with them. And this is my fanny pack. And I wear this, goes right around my waist, and I wear this every time I go in the woods. Because I've been lost just behind my house a couple of times. So I figured out, when I moved there, I went out and I was exploring, and I figured out that the hills normally go north and south. This one just curved gently until it was going east and west. And it threw me off because I didn't notice it. I didn't stay lost for very long. I got out. But I always take this so that if I do get lost, I have everything I need in here. So you folks, kids, might want to think about getting mom or dad to get you a fanny pack, or it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be last year's book bag that a bigger brother or sister used. Yeah.
What's in there?
What's in there? Well, why don't I show you? Okay, I'll do that. Okay, well, the first thing, remember I talked about how we want to be careful that we don't get wet out there?
Yeah.
Okay, the first thing I have, and you might not think of this, but it's a garbage bag.
Garbage bag?
Why would I have a garbage bag, right?
What the?
Yeah, well, come on up here and I'll show you.
While he's doing that, here's what we're seeing. It's just a plastic garbage bag, but with a hole for the head already cut out and tape around the opening so that it doesn't tear. The beauty of it is that the bag is really light and folds up tiny, and it's not like it has to last that long. If this one gets beat up, make another. What could go wrong?
What if it hits your shoes? Then
Well,
your socks will get wet.
If you sat down, that would cover your feet too. And now, you kids have all been told, you wait right there now, you kids have all been told, don't ever, ever, ever put a plastic bag over your head, right?
Yeah.
And that's true.
Yeah.
Now, that's why I cut a hole in it, so I could still breathe, okay? That's an important thing to do, is to make sure you make a hole like that so that you can stick your head out. So, the other thing that this does is, you ever noticed how when you're outside, the wind hits your skin and it feels cold? That's called wind chill, okay? What it's doing is it's taking the warmth away from your skin. Well, the wind won't go through that, will it?
So it's like a protection. It's a shield of protection.
It is. It's a shell that's going to protect you from the wind. It's going to protect you from the rain. It's small and easy to carry, and it's really cheap, and it really works. Okay? So that's another good thing for this. Now, when we are standing around here like we all are, we give off heat, and we have heat around our bodies, and when the wind comes and it'll blow it away, we feel colder. This will keep the wind from blowing it away a little bit. Now, are you getting warm in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's working. Let's see, what else might I have in there? Something that you might not think about is if you have a bandana, getting an orange one. Okay, now I don't wear a bandana with my hair, do I? Okay.
No.
But I went to the fabric store and just got a little piece of orange fabric, and I like to have everything ready, so I tied a rope to it. And what I can do with this, somewhere around here, I'll find a place, is I can tie this to a tree, and then if searchers are coming along, they'll see that, and they'll know that I'm nearby. Now that's really important for kids, much more important than for grown-ups, because when you guys are out there and you get tired and it gets dark, you curl up and go to sleep. Yeah, and you sleep so soundly that we've had people, kids, when we were calling their names, that didn't hear us and didn't wake up to tell us that they were there. Okay, but if you bring something like this up, and we're out looking and you're asleep and we see that, and we're going to go and we're going to look really carefully around that area where you hung it up. So we'll have a better chance of finding you.
So there's the second item in the fanny pack, an orange flag, just a tiny piece of cloth that could be hung in a prominent place to make it easier to find you. And yeah, young kids get exhausted out there and sleep like they're hibernating, and often don't hear their names being called.
That brings up a good point about people calling your name, huh? You've all been told never talk to strangers, right? Okay?
Yeah.
But if you're lost, and you're out in the woods, and we're calling your name, we're not strangers. We're like the police, we're the game wardens, and we're there trying to help you. So if you're out in the woods lost, somebody's calling your name, it's okay to answer back. That's a big important thing, to let us know that you're there, okay? Because that makes it easier to find you. One of the things that we ask people to carry so that it makes it easier is a whistle. And again, I put that on a rope, and what I would do is I would put it right over my head like that so that I knew right where it was, just in case if I dropped it and it was in the fall and the leaves were orange and yellow, I wouldn't find it very well, would I? Or if I dropped it in the snow, I might not find it. Or at night, if I hear you somebody calling my name, I don't have to go looking for it. It's right there. Anybody want to hear it? Well, you knew the question ahead of time, yeah? All right, you got to stick your fingers in your ears because it's very loud. Okay, that's pretty loud. That's louder than your voice would be. But the other thing is, if you're out there going, help, help, for a couple of hours, you get hoarse, don't you? Your voice gets tired. One thing to think about is, you see, mine is a plastic whistle. Don't get a metal whistle. Because what happens if it's really, really cold out and you take something that's metal and you go, it sticks to your lip, doesn't it? And we're going to find you with a whistle stuck to your lip. Okay? You can still blow on it, but it's not going to be real comfortable. So get a plastic one and it won't stick to your lip. Okay?
Yeah, because metal can freeze, and then when it freezes, you can't do anything.
Item 3, a whistle, preferably plastic. Item 4, food. But not just any food. Something that is sealed and lasts a long time and can stay in that bag for a while. Something that can be eaten just a little at a time. Something that holds up in heat and cold. Something like M&M's.
I've chosen M&M's for a couple of reasons. One is they're my favorite ever candy. That's number one. And the other is if it's hot out, they don't melt. I mean, I could carry a Hershey's bar, but if it was really hot and I needed it in the middle of the night, I'd have to lick it off of the wrapper. It's not quite as good that way. So I got M&M's because they won't melt. But the thing you got to do is you got to promise not to eat any of them unless you're really lost.
I don't know. It takes a pretty disciplined kid to not eat the M&M's when they're right there in his fanny pack on a day in the woods. This Talk to the Kids happened at the Eastern Maine Sportsman Show a few weeks ago. Jim Bridge is from the Maine Association of Search and Rescue. And up next, what can you do to make it easier to rescue you? We've actually got a couple of rescue dogs right here, too. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. At this year's Eastern Maine Sportsman Show a few weeks ago, there were several presentations on how to keep yourself alive. One of them was about keeping kids alive, how to avoid getting lost in the woods, and how to get found again if you do. Jim Bridge is from the Maine Association of Search and Rescue. In the room, many kids, their parents, Jim, me, 2 rescue dogs, and a bunch of questions.
Is there anything you can do when you're lost to increase the possibility that a dog will pick you up?
Make yourself big, okay? That's what we talked about. Big in sight with that, big in sound with the whistle. Some of our dogs, people have started doing a little bit of work to train them to hear a whistle and go looking for it. And we've tried that this fall with one of the dogs, and it heard me 600 or 700 feet away when the handler didn't hear me, and came right over and found me. So it'll be an easy step to teach the rest of the dogs that. But staying in one place is a big deal, because that scent goes like this, and then if you moved over here, the scent might go like this or like this. So now you're flooding the area with scent from different places.
In the woods, how long will a person's scent last so the dog can find it?
Well, as long as the person is there, for sure. But we've tried that where I'll go and I'll sit somewhere for a couple of hours and then get up and move, and the dog will come and find where I sat. and probably longer. We've done it for a couple of hours, but you leave a scent pool there, and the dog may find it and look around and not find you, or they may get that and then smell where you went. We'll have people moving, and it becomes a real problem. We had a little girl lost, an 8-year-old girl lost up in Strong about 6-7 years ago, and she kept moving. It took 3 days to find her because she'd be in here, and we'd assign a dog team to come in and search, and she'd have walked over here. And then this dog team would come back and report they didn't find her, and they'd say, okay, search here, and she'd walk over here. And she kept moving. She stayed out for 2 nights before she was found, eventually caught up to her. But very important to stay in one place. That leaves a scent pool there, just sitting in a place. You keep making a bigger and bigger scent pool, and it's easier and easier for the dog to find that scent pool.
Well, wouldn't it be smart if you kept walking in circles to make a place for your scent?
No, because what will happen is you'll make a mistake, and that circle will go like this. Okay? The other piece is that scent pool that you make sitting there is plenty big. The dogs will find that. Okay? As I said, we've never ever had a little kid that got lost that we didn't find and bring home safe and sound. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. What if you cross a stream? Do the dogs lose the scent? Is it like those old prison escape movies where you go back and forth across the water trying to throw the dogs off?
Actually, no. Watersheds tend to collect the scent, and it goes downstream. So one of the things that we'll do very early in a search is check the watersheds. Because if you're up above somewhere, or even if you crossed, a lot of times your scent will be brought right down by the water. Okay, so, and I tried with one of our tracking dogs to lose it on a stream one time, and I almost did, but not quite. The dog was tracking along, got to a stream, and I didn't just go across. I took a rock and put my scent all over it and threw it in the stream, down the stream, and then walked up and crossed in a different place. And it confused the dog for 3 or 4 minutes, but then they figured it out, and you know what they'll do is they'll make a bigger circle and a bigger circle until they find you. One of the things we do with the tracking dogs is we'll lay a track across like this, and the dog will come in, have a scent article so it knows who it's looking for. It will come across to that where you walked, and it needs to know which way you went. When you think about that, back when they were wolves, if it didn't know which way the rabbit went, it was going to get hungry and starve to death. So it had to know how to do that. I watched one of our bloodhounds do this, Ruby, and she got up there to the scent, and she didn't even move both paws. She went like this, and she went like this. We sampled that far of a distance and knew which way to go.
We're about out of time, but we have 1 spokesman, 2 dogs, and 3 experts in the room, and this is a good time for the kids to learn how to approach a dog safely. Obviously, search and rescue dogs are well trained and safe, but not all dogs are.
Yeah, a lot of people end up in the emergency rooms because maybe they've misread a dog, or somebody says, oh no, my dog is friendly. So you always have to be very careful and try not to approach a dog that isn't friendly. Well, if a dog is looking at you and growling, you know it's not friendly. But a lot of times dogs feel threatened by people. If you come up, like she knows me, and she's, like I said, she's been very good with all kinds of people, and that's years of training. But sometimes if somebody comes up and says, oh, you're a cute dog, and bends over like that with a dog, that's a threat to a dog to bend over them. That makes them very uneasy, and they might bite you because you're too big and you're kind of overpowering. Or if you just go up to a dog without asking permission, you should always say, can I pet your dog? And then wait for the person to respond, whoever has the dog. And the dog really should be behaving themselves. So don't approach a dog that's jumping all over the place, acting crazy, trying to grab you, because you're going to get scratched, and you might not mean to bite you. But if they're grabbing like puppies do, they might catch you with a tooth, and scratch your skin. So the dog should always be sitting down. And then if somebody comes along and says, oh, can I say hi to your dog? You come up, and don't come up straight forward like that, because that makes them nervous too. Or if you stare at a dog, dogs don't like that. So try not to stare. If a dog's really nervous and backs up when you come near it, turn sideways to it. Turn sideways and wait for the dog to approach you. The dog sometimes is really nervous and just takes a few minutes because they're not used to people. Don't put your face in the face of a dog because, again, they might be very friendly, but if they don't know you, then that's risky. You don't want to take a chance that you might get bit by a dog.
That's it from the Eastern Maine Sportsman Show, which took place a few weeks ago. Always circled in ink on my calendar. The Maine Association for Search and Rescue has 14 volunteer units around the state, including Dirigo Search and Rescue and Lincoln Search and Rescue. There are units on MDI and a couple in Waldo County. You can find them online at mainsearchandrescue.org, and they can find you anywhere. You can find this show and all previous shows archived in the web at 929theticket.com. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine returns next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 8. It's brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS on Sports Radio 929 The Ticket.